He's the youngest world champion in motocross history. He's got a 250 regional Supercross title to his name. He's won at multiple 450 outdoor national championships. He's a Motocross of Nations winner. He's the 2026 450 Supercross champion. And he's here. Ken Roczen is without doubt one of the most talented and the most beloved motorcycle racers of all time. So when Suzuki UK offered me the opportunity to come here to the ABR Festival to catch up with the champ, I jumped at the opportunity. In this video, not only will we be chatting with Ken Roczen, but I can't quite believe I'm saying this, I'll get to go for a ride with one of the most badass dudes on planet Earth. So sit back, relax, and join me for the ride. Ken Roczen, welcome to the UK. First thing I want to say is congratulations.
Thank you.
Watching that race in Salt Lake City was enough to make a grown man cry.
Don't worry, I even cried before the race even happened until the race was over, so.
It's one of those moments where the entire moto world was like rooting for you that day. Everyone in unison kind of like cheered and cried just for your achievement. So I want to say thank you first for providing us all with a moment like that, a moment to cheer for this year.
Thank you, it was incredible. Just, I've always had great support, but I could tell that this year, once we got the ball rolling, like it was, you know, people were playing with the idea of like, hey, could you imagine if that would happen? And then once we got closer down to the nitty gritty, like it felt like the whole world was pulling for me, which was awesome.
Your fan base is just crazy. I've seen you race in a lot of different places, but I think back to Erne Motocross of Nations a couple of years ago. And when they was doing the crowd introductions, obviously Team France, they went wild, but when they called Ken Roczen's name, they went equally as wild for you. So I think no matter where we are in the world, you've got that, the fan base.
Yeah, that was a special race too, because it's been a minute since I've especially raced a moto race in Europe, right? Destinations is always a special event anyways, you know, and not to mention that I used to race in France quite a bit too, right? Like even in my amateur career. So I had a lot of fans there, and yeah, the destination, the support, it's incredible.
So before we get into the Supercross talk, I think the one burning question everyone's going to have is, how the hell have you ended up in this field here in England this weekend?
Thanks to Suzuki. I mean, luckily with the schedule that I have at the moment, I'm off during the summers, and I got time on my hands. So once this all got said and done, I was like, yeah, I'm into it, you know, and it's fun for me because we always do our laps and training and Supercross and this and that. So it's kind of nice to be here, hang out, and do a different kind of riding, you know, chill, hang out, trail riding. I don't get to do enough of it, I feel like, so I'm stoked to be here.
I've not been out there at all, so don't leave me stranded.
All right, let's get going.
Let's do it. So here we are, hitting the track, well, hitting the trail with Ken Roczen. I can't believe my life sometimes. So Ken's going to show me the way around here because I have no clue where I'm going. Looks like he knows where he's going. It's my first time on a Suzuki DR-Z, or DR-Z as Ken would call it, 4. Straight away it was clear to see that Ken was having some fun out there on board the Suzuki DR-Z 4. And I was just trying my best to keep up with the 2026 Supercross champ.
Right here, right now, right quick, I'm on a UFO, extraterrestrial trip. Come through stomping with my boots on, just to watch you freeze like the Yukon. Tell them run up, come catch the stone cold stunner. Been on go mode the last 3 summers. The one of what and the radio runner up. Coming up in the way, no wonder I.
What a place, man. Oh, there he goes, Kenny boy! Oh, worked out down there! Ken on the back wheel, showing us why he is the champ! back to the Supercross then. You won't remember this, but we actually sat down for an interview like 7 years ago at the Fox HQ. Austin set it up for us. And we talked about all the different championships you'd won, all the different races that you'd won. But the last thing to tick off was 450 Supercross. When we sat there in that moment in 2019, did you think it would take this long for you to achieve that dream? Or do you think you'd even be capable of chasing that goal now at 31, 32 years old?
I don't know, because those were tough times, right? It was after my 2017 injury and 18 injury, and it seems like everything just kind of changed afterwards. So I had the hopes of getting a championship, but yeah, didn't think it was going to take that long. And then honestly, at one point, it got so far out, and I had my struggles, right, that I didn't think it was ever going to happen again, you know? So, I mean, a championship is always the goal, but I had to start focusing on something else than just a championship, which is one race at a time. Let's get a win again, let's get a couple of wins, multiple wins, you know, and we checked all the boxes this year. And it's been a while for me since I've won multiple races and one championship, never mind 5. Well, here I am, age 32, and I'm the oldest Supercross champion, which is pretty cool.
That brings me to my next stat. I'm sure you've been told this many times since Salt Lake City, but of course the oldest Supercross champion in history, also the youngest world champion in history. At 17, you won the World Championship. I think the record by a few hundred days, right? That's mental in itself, that stat. That's like a LeBron James level longevity stat, right?
I saw the post on Instagram. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, because I'm not a stat guy. Like, I don't, you know, I win a race and then it kind of sticks with you and everything just goes out the brain. So once I saw that, I'm like, man, that's pretty neat.
To be the youngest guy to do it and then the oldest guy to do it is just insane. So that begs the question, how have you been able to do it? How have you been able to keep going this long and stay at that pinnacle now into your 30s?
I have to say too that at that point, right, I was probably 17 or something around there, 18 maybe.
17 years, 128 days, I think.
There you go. Well, at that point, the age 30 sounded really, really, really far away. And honestly, I was like, because I knew that, you know, the greats like Ricky and all that, they just all retired pretty early, and I didn't think I'd be racing at 32 yet. Like, realistically, I kept it open, obviously, but it just sounded so far away. It was like, man, I wonder where I'm gonna be when I'm 32. Maybe not racing anymore. What would life be like? Yeah, what would life be like? But yeah, here we are, right, racing. When I had my struggles after the injuries and stuff, I ended up going to a Supercross only deal. You know, I was like, man, I don't always feel great anymore. You know, I struggle a little bit with the Epstein-Barr virus, and I just have stints of time where I'm just not feeling it. And I was like, what can I do? Like, if I'm either gonna stop now if I do Supercross, motocross, because obviously we know that the racing schedule over in the US is a bit gnarlier than here, and lots of travel as well. So I ended up going to a Supercross only deal, and you know, kind of have the summers to myself, and ultimately as well, mixing things up, going back with Suzuki. Like, those are all things that you don't necessarily realize it in the moment, because my back was pushed against the wall, right? Like, I was teamless, and I had a terrible year 2022, and stopped with HRC and a lot of question marks. But now looking back, like, that time frame, and even over the last few years, I feel like that's what's kept me going. I needed something fresh, and then obviously the crew that I work with, especially. I'm glad that I did things the way I did, because I ended up having a baby, and now 2. They're almost 6 and almost 3, and it's pretty freaking cool to be a dad and show them like what I'm doing. And if I would have stopped, they would have.
Yeah, I think it's a stat. You'll probably know better than me, but I think before Eli's win in 2020, I don't think a dad had won a Supercross championship,
right,
and now there's Eli, you, and Cooper have all done it. What's changed? Because it does seem to be the trend now that you guys are riding longer. Like you say, the Carmichaels and the Dungies and the Villapotos retired before 30.
Retirement is a bit scary, you know. We do this 98% of our life, and then things just stop. And I've been a little bit scared of it, you know, just because off time sounds good when you're in stress, but I also realized that I feel like I function the best under stress, and I don't know. It's just one of those things where we just kind of keep going, and I don't make, you know, big decisions with the snap of a finger. So I've always marinated on my thoughts, you know, and then up until now, I've always decided to just keep going. And I have to say that people always ask me if kids like change racing. I'm like, in a sense, yes, but no. You know, it doesn't make me like. Obviously, I still go fast, and it makes me push hard, and you have to take risks at times. But yeah, I think for me, it was basically just keeping a balance. Honestly, like, it's nice to come home from the track throughout the week and not just focus on one thing, which is racing dirt bikes. And it's tough at times too, because kids are a lot of work. they throw their fits, and they, you know, by the end of the night, me and my wife, we're emotionally, physically drained most of the time, right? Like, I have very busy kids.
I guess as well, it kind of, with the kids around, it distracts you from the bad weekends, the off weekends. You don't dwell on it too much because he doesn't care. They don't care, do they? They're just like, Dad, I need to go to soccer
It sometimes makes you care
practice.
a little bit less about racing, and that actually comes in pretty handy. Yeah.
God, it's hard to keep up Ken Roczen. Which might be stating the obvious. Thank you, dude. Few people stuck around here. It was so much fun watching Ken ride. It was plain as day that he has more skill in his pinky finger than the rest of us do in our entire bodies. So I'm trying to copy Ken, which might be my downfall because I do not have the skills of Ken Roczen. You ready? Right here. By my reckoning, Ken, you are the only, what I'm going to call Grand Slam champion in motocross history. The fact that you've won World Championship, 250 Regional Supercross Championship, 450 Outdoors, and a 450 Supercross. But there's only one other person, I think, in the conversation, and that's Jean-Michel Bale, who'd won 2 World Championships, Supercross Championship, and a National Championship. But what he hasn't done that you've done is win the Motocross of Nations for his nation. So by my count, you're the only Grand Slam champion in history.
Yeah. No, it's true.
How does that make you feel? That must make you feel pretty proud.
It's pretty cool. Like, it's nice to be reminded sometimes because, you know, life goes on, you do your thing, you get busy. Like, I don't always think about those things, but it's kind of nice to relive some of those times. And luckily, I've had a very long career, and I've been able to achieve some pretty cool things. You know, people always ask me, like, what's your favorite race and when? I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, I was fortunate enough to do a lot of cool stuff, so picking out one that's my favorite is hard to do sometimes.
You've been a professional motocross racer for literally half your life. It's going to be hard to pick out one race.
And lucky enough too, because even throughout my teenage time, right, like what you mentioned with youngest world champion and then youngest GP winner, I think I was 15 in 53 days. That's always one stat that's stuck in my mind. So you have that, and then, you know, I had podiums in my first year. I started off GPs after missing the first 4 or 5 rounds due to age. I was still too young. You know, that comes into play. And then I came over to the US, and you win your first West Coast race in Vegas my first year. Like, those are all massive milestones at that time, you know? So it's really hard to pick one out that's like, absolutely. I think there's multiple ones that are just special.
So it's been a few months now since Salt Lake. What have you been up to? Obviously, other than riding bikes around this field at this country manor, what have you been up to? Has there been much riding? And have you been watching the Nationals?
Yeah, I watch all the Nationals, all the GPs every single weekend. I have to, and I want to, you know what I mean? I should say I have to because I really want to, you know, and I'm like, I have to sit down on a Saturday and watch racing. I cannot not race.
Is that like a tactical thing? You want to see what the competition's up to, and you just enjoy it?
I want to see what's going on, and it's less about studying, but like a lot of the time we're doing stuff and then racing is on. I'll just freeze up and I'll look at the TV and I'm just standing there while I'm actually like doing something, but I'm like really watching. I think things register for us racers a lot different than, or at least for me, I pay attention to a lot of detail, like naturally, you know what I mean? And things just stand out to me. So I don't know, I'm just curious more so, you know? And so I have to watch all the races for sure.
And riding-wise, have you been?
No, riding has been pretty low. Like I've ridden 1 day of motocross last week on my 450. And then I think it was a week or 2 weeks before that, I wrote my 252 stroke actually, but that's been it. Literally, that's been it. I've been up until a couple weeks ago, I was working out a lot. Like after Salt Lake, I never really took time off when it came to working out. Not because I wanted to. I wanted to keep going, and you know, a lot of my life working out. So I feel like I have to. Like I really, to keep mental stability, I have to go and do something.
I know a lot of riders like that.
Yeah, I have to grind. Like especially the suffering type thing. Like I just know you're always pushing yourself a little bit. There's just a dopamine release that is almost necessary, you know. But besides that, I've been quite busy, you know. We went to California to see my team. We did an adventure ride there in Oakhurst, which is by like Yosemite, which was really pretty, and we hung out at their local track. They had a race there. We were hanging out with some kids. We did an RM Army boot camp. I went to F1 in Montreal, Canada, been to a couple of concerts, you know. We've been really busy. I've hardly had like a longer stint at home of like, you know, we're home for like 5 days or a week, and then we go here and there. So I've been quite busy.
So what is the plan for the rest of the year? Are you going to do a national?
As of right now, no. Every year I almost forced myself a little bit to do a national, and I don't want to show up and suck. And
that rarely happens though, to be fair.
Yeah, it rarely happens because
you put yourself under the pressure.
Well, you either have to prep yourself. Well, last couple of years I was hurt, you know, on crutches. So then I'm like, even if I suck, because I have to get stronger, I have to get riding time under my belt. I want to get a gate drop in before I actually go in the SMX rounds. You know, the first year on Suzuki 2023, I ended up racing High Point. That was purely because I wanted to, but I had no injuries. I felt good, I felt strong, and it was pretty early in the season, and I just went in it. And I rode just the week before High Point, but I was still fresh enough to like just catch on to it. But right now, if I were to do an outdoors, like I'd have to prep myself like properly, you know. But with motocross, because I've only really raced Supercross in the last few years, motocross feels a little bit foreign, and it requires an entirely different physical state. Over the years, things just kind of fizzle out, you know, when you only do Supercross, and it starts becoming a little bit more and more foreign, even though that's what I grew up doing, you know. But if you want to be at the top level, like if I go on an outdoor track right now, I feel like I'm rather slow, and that's just because you use different muscles and different momentum around an outdoor track than you do a Supercross track. So you your brain gets used to the Supercross way of riding by keeping your momentum up, and it'll come back pretty quickly, you know. But in general, it just, if you do one race, I feel like I would want to prep myself like very, very properly to at least have a shot of something halfway decent. So I don't know, right now I just wasn't really feeling it. It's gonna be just a decision that I'll make, like, oh, I'm gonna go race here real quick, you know. So I don't know.
And then are you doing some overseas Supercross this?
Yes. I'm going to Geelong in New Zealand, and then I'm also racing the Australian, the AUS-X Open, and Paris. Actually, yeah, I'll be back in Paris. It's been a couple of years now since I've gone, and yeah, I'm gonna be back in Paris.
So we've been having fun here at the ABR Festival, but we wouldn't be able to come to events like this one and make videos like the one you're watching right now without the support of our channel sponsors. And seeing as we are at the Adventure Bike Festival, that gives me a great opportunity to tell you guys about our friends at Seat Concepts. Seat Concepts are an American company that make these awesome handcrafted high quality seats for your motocross bike, your enduro bike and your adventure bike. This is a seat for a DR-Z 400 right here. Seat Concepts make their seats in different shapes, colours and sizes, like I say, for your motocross bike, enduro bike or your adventure bike. And if you use our discount code 999laser, you can get 15% off. So be sure to check them out next time you need a new seat for your ride. I've left a link in the description down below. As always, a big thank you goes to Seat Concepts. Let's talk about Suzuki then. Obviously, we mentioned earlier that there's a lot of doubters with Suzuki. I've listened to club racers for years say, oh, I'm not going to get a Suzuki, they're not fast enough for me to win. But we've got Exhibit A right here. You can win on a Suzuki.
It's funny when people make that kind of...
I personally love a Suzuki. I had a RZ 450 in 2018, absolutely loved it. You had the pick of the field a few years ago when you had everyone in a frenzy trying to guess what you was going to choose to ride. What season for 2023?
So 2022 was that's when I left HRC, and then that's when I rode all the bikes, you know, towards the end of the year, and I didn't sign my contract till like mid-December, and then we started racing in January, so it was really late.
Why did you go back to Suzuki? What is it about the yellow bikes that you gravitate towards? Obviously, you're kind of linked with them from the very early days.
I'm always trying to be smart about the decisions that I make, right? And I don't make big decisions, like I said, with the snap of a finger. And so after winning, I have a really good relationship with Yariv Kunsky. And after leaving HRC, I ended up being with Yariv, still racing a Honda, but we did WSX together, and then Paris. I was riding really well in Paris and ended up beating Eli and ended up becoming king of Paris. So I had something really good going, and obviously I've been on Honda many, many years, even though I said from the beginning on that I would like to see a different color front fender because I needed a change. But then that was still an option where I'm like, this is probably going to be my best option. So after Paris, I went to Madeira with the team, and I wanted to keep the door open. You know, I'm like, I would be silly if I just go after Paris. I'm like, no, you know what? I'm not going to go ride to Suzuki. I'm going to stay with Yariv and whatever. I still wanted to go and do it, and I ended up doing it. And obviously that was a small operation at that point with the team. Definitely not a factory team, right? So once I rode the bike, though, I don't know, there was something there. I just said right away, I'm like, I feel like I can win on this thing. The bones and the structure of the motorcycle I liked, yet there was a lot of work to be done, you know, like a lot of work. Get the engine better, the motor better, rideability, suspension. We were doing a bunch of clutch stuff, you know.
Does the kickstart come into it at all for you?
At that point, no, I didn't care about it. No, not at all. Plus, like, I did have my back up against the wall a bit too, you know what I mean? Like I wanted something different, and then here I am teamless basically, and it's starting to head towards December, you know, and we kind of got to figure out, but nah, that wasn't really my first thought. Because again, at that point, it wasn't about a championship or anything, you know, I just was not at my best. It was a little bit of a Hail Mary in a sense, you know, because I'm like, haven't had that much, terrible 2022, hadn't that much fun racing, and yeah, it was kind of like, I'll just take what I can get right now, you know, I don't race for the money. I just want to like enjoy doing this again, you know.
I mean, what a gamble.
It really was.
Gamble.
It really was, and a lot. And I think that's why I have a lot of pride in what we have built, and especially just on the motorcycle, because it was my me and the team, of course, but I was so hands-on. Like I was making calls to, you know, when we tested clutches and all. Like I didn't want to leave anything on the table. So also we didn't have a test track in Southern California. Like there were just some hurdles to overcome, right? So making phone calls like tracks, this and that, blah, blah, blah. We need this and this clutch. I want to try this. So I was very hands-on and put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears with the team to get the motorcycle where we have it now. But also at that time, like any decision that you make, like when you test, there's so much stuff to test, and it can just get confusing because you change a mill on the back and everything changes. So you have to know what you're doing, and then you have to trust what you're doing, and then you have to prove that what you did was right. So it just was a long road, and we just kept at it, you know, and this is my funnest motorcycle, you know, Suzuki throughout the years, but especially this bike right now too. I love my 2016, and then right now it's my favorite motorcycle. That I do really love my bike. I think it looks badass. We have great people working on it, and it functions well. And I'm not, you know, nothing's ever perfect, but like, our platform is so good, and mud, sand, hard pack, like, you know, we hit everything pretty dang good. So I have a lot of pride in what we've built.
So just tell us about the bike you're riding this weekend.
So the DR-Z 4S is actually the same bike that I have in Florida. I rode one while I was in California this year, and I'm like, I gotta get me one of these bikes because I haven't had any kind of adventure or dual sport or whatever trail bike ever, and I rode it in California because I stayed the entire week there, and my mechanic would take the truck to wash the bike, and I want to be mobile. And then as soon as I rode it around, it didn't feel bulky. It felt nimble. It felt in a sense like my actual dirt bike, but you're able, you know, it was softer, plusher. There are differences, but it felt very familiar, and I right away was intrigued by it. So I hit up Suzuki, and I'm like, hey, how, you know, can I? So they ended up giving me a bike, and the best part is I take it with my kids to go to the park, and you know, in Florida you can actually legally sit your kids on a bike and go ride wherever you want to. So that's the bike of choice for the kids most of the time. I truly love it. I've ridden it on trails and like near Yosemite this year, and we're riding it here. So
you say it's quite close to the motocross bike. So we're going to go out there and we're going to see you hit some triples, skim some whoops, right?
If there were some, we would do it. There are actually some whoops down there, so we can definitely skim some whoops. But
well, you can skim some whoops, and we'll watch, right? Oh, I'm not going to try that, Ken. So Ken and I were having fun tearing around the TRF trail here at the ABR Festival, and I was definitely holding him back. When he wanted to, Ken could truly let rip and leave me in his dust. There we go. Ken just making everyone else look silly up the hill. Not so clean that time around. You've had a long career and there's been a lot of different eras of Ken Roczen, whether it was like the prodigy on Tekka Suzuki, the wild child, youngest champion on the KTM, underdog on the RCH, the Conor McGregor era, I like to call it, on the Honda, and now Kickstart Kenny. Which has been your favourite era of Ken Roczen?
Again, there's so much special. Like, you know, now that the GP time, it's been so long. It feels like a different life, honestly. If I watch myself racing at that, I feel like I'm watching a different person just because the time gap is gnarly. And I've never been in a position to talk about, hey, 15 years ago I was racing, because I was always so young that 15 years ago, I don't know what I did. The GP times, I really enjoyed. I had a great time. I loved my team back then. We spent a bunch of time in Belgium. Motorcycle was awesome. Working with my parents and just like learning the way of the big dogs, you know, of the pros. And I was all ears, you know. And then coming over to the US was really just a culture shock, you know, with everything, like grocery shopping. I went from living at a farm with my own track to an apartment, you know, and then driving an hour to the track every day, which was crazy, traveling with a motorhome everywhere. Now I'm flying everywhere with time changes and everything, and I'm like, what's going on? So tough times, but my favorite, I would say my favorite has probably been the Kickstart Kenny time.
Kickstart Kenny.
Yeah, it was special, you know, underdog story, old bike.
And the wife and kids are there to
yeah, life changes that way, right? I feel like every 4 or 5 years, your character kind of changes in a bit, you know, like things that interested me 5 years ago, like I don't know, things just change, right? So you're in different stages of your life, and now I can share that with my own family. Yeah. It's pretty special.
In 20 years' time, what do you want the number 94 to be remembered for? What do you want Ken Roczen to be remembered for? What's your legacy in the sport if you could write it out?
To be honest, I think that would be a great question. It's like you need to take 100 people and just ask them. Because I've gotten asked before, and I straight up said, like, I want to be remembered as a bad motherfucker. But realistically, I think it's a great question to answer for other people looking in from the outside, you know, because I honestly don't know. I haven't thought that far or whatever. But I think people from the outside look at things differently, and I would love to know what their thoughts are, you know what I mean? So I've done some special things throughout my career, and I think this championship tops it off. I don't know, I've gone through a lot of injuries and stuff, so obviously that's always a big talking point for people and coming back and stuff. So I don't know, good question, to be honest.
This will be the hardest question you get asked this weekend, I think. So if in a magical world, the World Cup final comes down between Germany and the USA, who are you cheering for?
Oh, well, that's a tough one. I've watched a lot of games, and in the years past, not at all, but now, like my kids, it made my kids be into soccer, and we've actually been playing at home, and I used to play back in the day, so I've watched it a lot more this year than any of the previous years. And I've watched a lot of games, and I, in general, know that soccer was never their strong point. Like it's becoming bigger now. To be quite honest, I always mistimed watching the game, so it was always all the other countries I haven't even watched. And I know Germany played, I think, yesterday, and I was, we're traveling, all this stuff, and here we are, and I haven't watched it. I haven't watched the USA or Germany play, actually. To be quite honest, like I feel American. I've had my entire adult life there. I've been there a long time, and in all of these years, I've hardly gone back to Germany. I miss my friends, and I miss Germany how it was when I was still there, but I know it has changed a lot. So I miss my area and everything, but like I said, I feel American just because I've been there for so long, and that actually started at a very early age. Still haven't answered your question, but I'm talking my way around it. But I was watching all moto-XX back in the day. I was very USA oriented, right? Now moved over there and at like 17 or whatever, and I've been there ever since. So, I bought my first house there. I got my driver's license there. Everything that I did as an adult was there. So I truly feel American, but it would be pretty good because I feel like in the last years, I don't think Germany was anything special. I could be wrong, but
yeah, I'm not the right guy to ask, but I think your chances are better with Germany.
Yeah, no, I think when it comes to soccer, just because when I look back, I used to actually play for a team. I never did soccer games, but I did the practice throughout the day, and everybody plays soccer, and I like playing soccer too. We played indoor soccer and everything, so I would have to go for Germany just because I feel more connected when it comes to soccer. I think Germany. When I think soccer, I don't really think the US, so let's go with Germany. And I know this was a probably 8-minute dance around the question, but.
Okay, I just want to say thanks for this, man. What an honour. What an honour.
Anytime. You want to go first? Yeah, go.
That's me there, leading Ken Roczen around the trail here at ABR. What a day, what a moment for me. It was an absolute pleasure spending the afternoon with Ken Roczen here, ripping laps around the trails, talking about the bikes, talking about life, talking about racing. It truly was an honour and a privilege. And it's safe to say that we had a lot of fun out there on board the Suzuki DR-Z 4Ss. I want to say a big thank you to Suzuki UK, to Ken Roczen of course, and to the ABR Festival for setting this up for us here this weekend. What an experience. As always guys, my name is Max, you've been watching 999 Laser. Who else do you want to see on the channel? Let me know in the comments down below, and I will always try my best to make it happen. Until next time though, I'll see you on the trails.